Welcome back to Toffee Booze, your source for all things Everton. I'm Ollie Hayes, and today I'm bringing the extra time match review for Brighton and Hove Albion nil, Everton 1. David Moyes' first away game and his first away win back in charge of Everton. So let's get straight into it. Where to start with this one? What an absolutely fantastic team performance on Saturday afternoon. Really proud of all the lads, and to come away with a 1-0 victory against Brighton was absolutely fantastic. But we'll start with the starting 11, and there's absolutely no complaints from me, in my opinion. The teams that started against Spurs was absolutely fantastic from start to finish, and I think every single one of them deserves to keep their starting place in the team. Especially the likes of Jesper Lindstrom and Jake O'Brien. Obviously, O'Brien making his first Premier League start against Tottenham, and I thought he did fantastic. So I had absolutely no complaints about him keeping his place in the back five there, and especially Lindstrom in that wider role, playing as a fullback, and also Jake O'Brien playing as that left-sided centre half. I think they did so well against Spurs. So yeah, in the pre-match thoughts, I was thinking, yeah, no complaints from me. A really good, a really strong team to take on Brighton, and I was actually quite hopeful going into the game. I said it in the pre-match, preview. It would be a more difficult test against Brighton. If you're comparing it to the Spurs game, they do set up kind of similar, in the way that they like to play out from the back. They like to have a lot of ball. They like to have a lot of the possession. Albeit a similar setup. I think that the quality of Brighton on the ball is a little bit better than Spurs. So I did expect a little bit more of a difficult test. But we'll start with that first half, and I thought we started really well. We weren't giving them too much time on the ball. A bit like Spurs, we were getting at them. We were high pressing, but we weren't getting sucked in. I think there was a clear structure to David Moyes' setup. I think we weren't getting too sucked in onto the ball and going hell for leather and pressing at them, but there was a decent enough press where they were forced into making some quick passes and some early mistakes in that first half. And it was relatively even that first half. For the first 10, 15 minutes, I think both teams were cancelling each other out. There wasn't really too many clear cut chances, but there was a couple of flashpoints in that first half. The first one, which I'll get to, is the Dominic Calvert-Lewin injury. For me, it's just a real shame, isn't it, about Dominic Calvert-Lewin? Where does this leave his future now? You do worry now that, is there a team that's going to pick him up in the January transfer window? Definitely not. He's not going to pass a medical anywhere. But then also as well, we've offered him that long-term contract. Again, are we in a situation where we don't really want to offer him that much money a week, and having him on such high wages and with a player that's so injury prone? I'm not so sure, but I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin getting injured is just the story of his season. I think he's had rotten luck in terms of chance creation, and then his first goal, under the David Moyes era against Spurs, and then the very next game he gets injured within 20 minutes, half an hour. So it's disappointing. 13 minutes is nothing in the game. So for him to get injured in that amount of time, it's just disappointing. And fingers crossed he can come back and start staking his claim in the team. But it does mean that we probably need to dip into the market in this last week of the transfer window. And it's a little bit disappointing that, again, we're down to one striker, considering 4 weeks ago we had four fit and available strikers. So again, it's just rotten Everton luck. But what can you do? Beto came on, and we'll get onto his performance later on in the video. But the first real flashpoint of the first half was actually our penalty incident. Obviously, a long ball forward by Jordan Pickford, which was met by Beto and Vitaly Mikalenko, both contesting for it with Joel Veltman. And I don't know what he was thinking, but he completely just batted the ball out of the way. Obviously, the referee didn't see it. It went out for a corner, and VAR intervened, and we did get the penalty in the end. And for me, it was a stonewall penalty. I'm not too sure what the complaints were from the Brighton fans, or the Brighton teammates, crowding around the referee at the replay that got showed around the Amex. I think he can have no complaints with that, and I think he'll be looking back at that flashpoint in the first half and kicking himself because he's cost his team 3 points there. But we'll go into the penalty, and what a penalty it was from Iliman Ndiaye. Class personified, that boy. I'm unsure on the booking after, but we'll get to that in a minute. But we've got to talk about the penalty. Looking at the keeper the whole way, and finding the bottom corner, it just shows how much class the boy has got. But onto the celebration, and onto the booking which follows the penalty. Again, a strange one. You see Jamie Vardy week in, week out winding up fans. Crystal Palace, for example, he did that very similar eagle celebration and didn't get booked for it. And then also in the game against Tottenham for Leicester yesterday, he pointed to the Premier League badge to wind up the Tottenham fans. So again, I'm not sure why a precedent has been set and Iliman Ndiaye has been booked for that celebration, but again, it just seems to be like a very Everton thing to do things once and then never do it again. My mind is casting back to the Umar Niasse retrospective diving ban, but again, just a strange decision to book Iliman Ndiaye, in my opinion. But that was kind of it for the first half. It was a solid end to the first half. We stayed pretty compact, a little bit back to the wall towards the back end, but I can't really think of a clear cut opportunity that Brighton did create in that first half. And going into half time, I was content. I felt like we deserved to have the lead, and I was hoping hoping that second half we would come out and maybe create a few more chances and try and kill the game off, like I wanted us to do against Spurs. Maybe get that fourth against Spurs in the second half. I know, it's easier said than done against a team like Brighton, but I was hoping that we would come out and be a little bit more progressive. But again, the second half started. It does seem to be a little bit of a characteristic that we do start slow, but it was a much more dogged performance, backs to the wall. Everyone putting in challenges here, there, and everywhere, and we were attacking where possible. I think if you're looking and comparing it to such some Sean Dyche performances on the road, if we did score that goal, for example, we would just soak up all the pressure, all the possession, and just try and hold on for dear life. It didn't really feel like that. It did feel like we were creating a couple of chances here and there, and but for a Beto chance which he spooned wide, I think it could have been 2-0 in that second half. But as I was saying before, it was a much more dogged performance in that second half, staying compact, backs to the wall, and not just hoofing it long. We were trying to create chances where possible. So again, off the top of my head, I'm not really thinking too many Brighton chances. There was the Matoma chance, there was the Baliba chance, which ballooned over the bar. Obviously, the Ruter chance was probably the biggest one. Branthwaite failing to deal with a long ball forward, and Ruter just putting wide. And I think the João Pedro one where Jordan Pickford had to tip over. I think they're the four biggest chances that Brighton had. But again, that's just testament to the Everton back four and the Everton back line that we did manage to deal with all those chances. And they weren't really clear cut. They were dealt with quite well. So again, it just shows how much of a top performance it was at the top of the pitch and also, at the rear of the pitch. And again, I've said it so many times in this video, but it was just a well-deserved 3 points coming away from it, a top performance, well-deserved 3 points. And I do love the scenes at the end of the game. Not to mention David Moyes celebrating with, Iliman Ndiaye, Idrissa Gana Gueye and Decore, but also the chaos that ensued with Jordan Pickford and Jake O'Brien and James Tarkowski. It's about time we saw these players have a little bit of fight and, getting stuck in towards the end of the game. And Tarkowski's face said it all, really. He was just a complete wind-up merchant. But again, it does just show how much it means to all of them. They really do want to push us up the league and keep us in this division. And fingers crossed we can do that now. Obviously, we're hoping that we can look forward rather than over our shoulders. Obviously, Leicester at home next weekend is an absolutely crucial game. But then if we do win that, for example, that's 9 points out of a possible nine. So again, the skies will be the limit. I've said this, in recent weeks, that the skies will be the limit for David Moyes this season if we do manage to string these results together. But again, let's just keep our feet on the ground and fingers crossed we can just take game by game and winning them all. But again, there's only one real downside to the game. Obviously, I've spoke about the Dominic Calvert-Lewin injury, and then also the Orel Mangala injury was probably another one to take away from that. Again, it's just disappointing because they are, on their day, they're two of our most crucial players. So to lose them for an extended period of time is going to be difficult and it's going to be disappointing. But that being said, I'm hoping that now this can, give light for James Garner or Tim Irabunum to come back into midfield, for example, and hopefully stake their claim and show their value to David Moyes, because in recent weeks, Mangala and Idrissa Gana Gueye as a partnership have been absolutely fantastic. So yeah, the only downside to the performance really, obviously, is the two players coming off injured, Mangala and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But the key takeaways really from the game, if you're looking at standout performers, it's Idrissa Gana Gueye for me. I thought he was absolutely fantastic once again, leading by example, leading the midfield so well. And Jake O'Brien as well, special mention to him, because I think he did very, very well and he's been absolutely fantastic since coming into the team. But if I had to nitpick a little bit on a certain performance, I feel like Abdoulaye Doucouré on the ball, we cannot question his intensity and we cannot question his effort and his work ethic, but on the ball, creating passes, stringing, little touches, little passes together, it does feel like he will be our undoing at some point, and it will be difficult to have him in that 10 for much longer. But that being said, I think you can't question his energy, you can't question the way he sets the press. And again, I don't want to put a downer on it because it was an absolutely fantastic result, an absolutely fantastic performance, and 3 points on the road, which is something we've not been able to say too many times this season. But as I said before, what a result. Sets us up very well for the Leicester game on Saturday. Obviously, Ruud van Nistelrooy coming off the back of a result at Tottenham. So again, it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a difficult game against Leicester, but fingers crossed we can get the 3 points. But that is all from me today. Make sure you let me know your thoughts in the comments about the performance. Are you happy with the 3 points? Do you think that we can, start looking up the league now and start kicking on? But that is all from me today. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon.